Unrelated, but related. I am having so much trouble with my roof.
Really?
At home, and finding someone to fix it.
Yeah. Your house is older, but not old.
The base of my house was built in 1949, so as a 2-1.
But that's not that old because like Sacramento, like our nice houses are like Victorians. They're like 1800. Yep. Like Sacramento's kind of an old city, although we're on the West Coast. We're not as old as like they have castles on the East Coast, but it's like the first place everybody landed.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, Sacramento,
area,
San Francisco.
the Valley.
Yeah, the Valley. So my house, it was built as a 2-1 in 1949. So post-war, my whole neighborhood was built in that time. And then in 1954, they added a big family room. And then in the late 70s, early 80s, somebody built on a master suite, like a 2-story master suite.
Is the roof issue because of the style of roof, because of the age, or is it just because people are not handy anymore?
This is because it was poorly designed originally, the way that the master bedroom fits into the rest of the house.
Yeah.
And so I think that there have been leaking problems for a long time. Like when we bought the house, it still had the original like cedar shakes, and that had leaked. The house had been a rental for a really long time. The guy who owned the house this is disgusting. He was a child molester. He was a child psychologist who was a child molester who was convicted and not allowed to move back into Sacramento County. Oh, that was not disclosed to me until after we bought the house.
That's probably illegal now. Maybe it wasn't when you bought it.
I think it was then too. I mean, if the house was a crime scene, they have to disclose that.
Even if someone died in the house, they have to disclose it.
Yeah,
right?
they're supposed to. Because like, what if you get the creeps from knowing that somebody died in your house?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Not only crazy that what happened to you, but crazy. Crazy that a psychologist would. You know what I mean? Because often when you start to get on that side of insane, they're not always crazy high IQ. You start to get to some psychopaths and stuff, and they're just so off the normal.
Oh, you
Richter.
mean like the Joker?
Yeah, which I haven't seen yet. But we'll get into. But for a guy to do that, that's like such a lifelong sick plan.
Yeah.
Right, to go to like school for 10 years to become a sick fuck.
Yeah, I live. My house is two. It's like one house from a park.
Yeah.
Which is creepy too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't know this until afterwards when the neighbor told us. Oh yeah, by the way, it's like shit. And I looked it up, and it was like, oh my god.
There's some stuff right by my house. I think for some reason Sacramento has a high amount of serial killers throughout history.
Yeah,
and there's this
sweet.
I think she held like maybe in the 30s, 40s, 50s. Maybe I'm wrong. Don't quote me, but hence the show. I think she was a not a bed and breakfast, but kind of like a hostel type, or like a fake hostel. She would just take in travelers.
Oh, like Dorothea Puente?
Yeah, I don't know. Is that a Sacramento chick?
Yeah, it's a Sacramento
So
one.
I think her house is right by my house. Or close.
Yeah, it's not 14th Street?
Yeah.
Yeah,
close.
I think 14th and F, maybe?
See? Close.
Yeah, that's really, really, it's close.
Now the whole internet knows where I live. I'm going to die too.
Yeah, here you go. Yeah, no, she was keeping them alive. On paper, but killing them in person.
Yeah, and I don't know where I read.
So she was getting their Social Security checks.
That's what it was. I did hear that. Yeah, I read somewhere that Sacramento, for some reason, by population, has a very high serial killer rate, which is bad and different story. I have more stories of that, but some of them are like too telling of my history, so I probably won't talk about them. Not personal history, but people I know, and they're just gross nastiness everywhere. But on a light note, we finally announced that we received our second major league sports team here in Sacramento. Right. We're in the MLS, today? And I was watching the little video, and we have Ron Burkle kind of leading the way, which is cool. Insane billionaire. I think he's part of Airbnb. He's part of Whole Foods.
He started 24-hour fitness.
Yeah, he's part of everything.
And he was involved in something else before that, and I can't remember which one. I don't want PayPal.
Yeah, he's part of everything. He literally is, and he's almost like worth $2 billion or something. So it's cool. And some people might say like, oh, that's slimy. Like, what does he care about Sacramento? Like, I don't know if he cares about Sacramento, but for someone that wealthy and that successful, he obviously has an eye for what's going well, and he's choosing to throw his money here in Sacramento, which is cool. And then I was watching the ceremony, and we had all these people speaking and all this. the mayor, the governor. But it was cool at the end. And who knows? It's now that I do like marketing and content creation, you know that it could all 100% be fake.
Yeah.
But they had a bunch of like really famous people like congratulating Sacramento, which was cool. You know, like cool. Steve Nash is saying what's up and like congratulations. And he's a soccer fan in Santa Clara, which is near-ish, university grad. And just stuff like that does get me slightly excited for the city, because you and I think we've probably talked about it on podcast too, but definitely in private, how the city's growing and turning into... it can't grow in population that much, which is kind of cool because of how it's set up. If it does, it's growing out like everywhere else, which is fine. But downtown is secured basically by rivers and freeways, so we're kind of stuck. But for us to grow like financially, popularity, tourism, stuff like that, we're growing like crazy, which is super exciting.
Yeah. I really wondered if they were going to get this done. And
6 years they've been working on it.
Yeah, and it felt like they kept moving the fences on it, you know, that every time that they were close and felt like that they were ready to make the pitch, they got pushed back. And the most recent thing was needing a $1 billion investor, because apparently you just need a $1 billion investor now. So that's how they got Burkle. But
because the fees to join the MLS, we had a minor league. The fees used to be $100 million to get into the MLS, and then they just switched it to $250 million as we were making a bid. Is
that all?
Yeah. So I think that was part of why we needed that investor. And there's tons of rules, and I don't know about the MLS per se, even though I heard all these facts today, which surprised me. Like, I think less than 10 years ago, it was only a 12-team league, and now it's up to 29 in 10 years, which means obviously something's going well. Like, you don't grow like that. People, like, sports teams are literally just like toys for rich people.
They kind of are, yeah.
Like, you don't make a lot of money on them normally, and
it's like scuba diving without getting wet.
Yeah.
It's
living out their dream as a fan. Right. But it's not like the best investment. Burkle's going to they're going to make way more money on Airbnb or whatever he's messing around with than he will on a random soccer team. So for them to do it, it has to be a passion project, but it also has to go well. Like, they don't never want it to go backwards. They kind of want it to stay the same. So it does kind of cool, because I never paid attention to MLS.
I never have either. I've been to a game.
Yeah, I've heard they're fun.
My wife's gone a couple times more than I have. Chris and his wife have season tickets.
Yeah. The fans were nuts on the announcement today. They're like chanting and shit in the background the whole time. Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, I treat going to a game like that the way a lot of they call like white wine drinkers treat going to Oracle.
Sure.
For Giants games.
Yeah.
It's just an opportunity to talk and socialize and
I think it will be
drink
cool,
and don't pay any attention to the actual game.
Yeah.
Like, when I go to a baseball game, I pay attention to the game.
Sure.
When I go to a soccer game, I'm talking to people, because I don't really care that much about soccer one way or the other. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's
just not your sport.
It's just not my sport.
Yeah, I got really into soccer for a while, kind of high school, college-ish age. I was watching a lot of European soccer. So I think it would be cool, because our league is obviously much less competitive, but we get all the retirees, or just before retirees, big names from Europe.
Right.
So something like that would be cool. I'll rock a jersey or something and go to a game, and they'll probably be really cheap compared to going to like a football game or even a Major League Baseball, depending on what's happening. And shit, it will be really close to my house, so I think it's good. Overall good. Food's good. They're calling it the entertainment district, which is cool, because we need some of that.
They're talking about big concerts that don't fit in other places.
Even big concerts they'll throw in a freaking soccer stadium.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you got someone selling shit out, why not?
Right. Well, where we started was with my roof.
Yeah.
And I 5 or 6 weeks ago, I mean, I've been trying all summer to get somebody to come out, and it's been very difficult. My roof is a little bit complicated because of the things I was talking about. I finally got somebody who's a specialist in the kind of roof that I have to deal with, because it's flat in one portion. And so they gave me an appointment finally. It was like more than 2 weeks in the future, and it was on the day that I had jury duty. And I literally had to go sit in the courthouse, and I had like a 2-hour break. I ran home to meet with the guy. My son kind of spelled me a little bit because I couldn't be there for the whole time. One of the strangest people I've ever dealt with in a contractor arrangement. Literally, like such tight focus on the roofing materials themselves, not paying any attention to the actual house, like how the house works together, what, like which part of the house he's looking at a particular time.
Yeah.
It was very, very odd. And then I didn't get an estimate yet. And I went, I emailed, said, like, hey, is there any chance you're going to get me an estimate sometime soon? It's like, oh, our power was out. They were up in Auburn during the PG&E outage. It's like, okay. So I give them another week, and I still don't have anything. So Friday, I contacted them again and said, like, I kind of need something soon. Like, I ripped the flooring out of my family room, and I would need to put new flooring down, but I have to think about what I'm putting down if there's a chance the roof is going to leak, right? Sure. This morning, I get an email saying, yeah, sorry for the delay. He doesn't want to bid your project unless he's going to do the whole thing, because he feels like he would have to come back a bunch of times if there was something like wrong. Yeah. We're talking about...
So you're trying to just fix it. You're not trying to redo the whole roof. Yeah. And you can't get someone to just...
We're talking about something that's 25% or less of the whole roof. Yeah. I don't need to replace the whole roof. Right. Like, the rest of it is in good shape. Right. I don't want to spend all of the money to do that. Right. And
is this guy that busy or that much of a money player?
I think he's just nuts. Yeah. I think is the issue is that he doesn't do it. He was there for an hour and a half,
analyzing 2 hours. It does suck that humans suck so bad. It's like a hard pill to swallow, because I think the most typical reference is mechanics. Like, people don't know anything about their cars. You bring your car in, and all of a sudden everything's busted, and this guy has to fix everything, where obviously you just need an oil change, and this guy's trying to throw you for a loop. But sadly, that can work with anything. Like, I don't know shit about roofs, and so if I hire a roof guy, I'm gonna trust him. But there's no law, there's no regulation, and there's no way to judge whether this guy's being honest or not. And at least your guy sounds like he was being at least upfront about it, even though it is a slimy move
to take this long to tell me.
He could have lied though and said, actually, you need your whole roof fixed. Well, this whole thing is busted.
Within the last year, I've already spent $2,500 trying to fix this problem, and
I don't know how to deal with those things, because it is so annoying that. I don't know what percentage, but a large majority of these people out there in any business are just flat out liars and scumbags.
Yeah, and so the last time I spent money on it, actually the last 2 times I spent money on it in the last year, I had somebody come out and they said, oh yeah, $2,000 to do this thing, and it didn't. So this should solve the problem. It totally didn't solve the problem. 2-year warranty. I call them and say, hey, this didn't solve the problem. It's still leaking. They send a guy out who's like, yeah, this company's not very good.
Dang.
And
that makes
I can see what they left undone. I can fix that for like $300, but don't tell the company, because I'm an independent contractor who works under them. Yeah. And I don't want to like lose the gig with them, but they're kind of scummy. It's like, fuck. All right. So I give the guy like $300 or something like that, and he does whatever he does, and it still fucking works.
Yeah, nothing.
Like, I can't. If I go back to this original company, they're going to send another asshole out,
right?
Who's not going to know how to fix it, because they didn't estimate it right in the first place.
Maybe he had good intent, but he swindled you too. They're all just pieces of shit.
And in California, we have the problem of like periodic droughts, and we don't really have that much rain in Sacramento most of the time.
Yeah, not compared to a lot of places.
And it's not a day of rain that causes my problem. It's like 3 days of rain or wind and rain that causes my problem. Sure. So like, I understand that it's difficult to fix, but come on, bro. Like, fucking give me a break here.
Yeah, there has to be some kind of roofer that is honest and can at least get something done. Luckily for me, I got a new house, and I'm sure those problems are coming soon, but...
Well, is any part of your roof flat?
It is. The whole thing is technically flat because it's a patio.
Yeah.
But then it's like waved out, so the water trickles down. You know what I mean? So it's not like completely flat.
Okay.
But it's not like slanted.
Okay.
We'll see.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, who knows? I don't know anything about any of it.
Well, I actually. Our first house, I actually fixed one part of the roof myself, and it was like,
good
it was
enough.
very time consuming, but it was basically perfect. And I did it without all the all the air-driven stuff.
Yeah. I guess lucky for me, the builder that built my house is starting to get really, really popular in the Bay Area and up here. So like, if something goes wrong, you just can hunt them down. Like they're a name brand in a way, So I just fucking yell at them somehow.
We're on the phone with Michael Fahey, director of Westside versus the World, and the man to bring powerlifting back to ESPN.
Is that officially announced?
We're going to be on ESPN3 in 1 week. 1 week from today, we should be handing out awards right about now.
Very cool.
So that is what date? The 28th?
28th. Yeah.
And where is that located?
It's going to be in St. Charles, Illinois, so basically Chicago.
Okay.
At the world-famous Pheasant Run Resort.
Does it mean that it's run by pheasants?
Is it actually world famous?
Unpack this for us.
I may have just added that because it sounds nifty. I think I read it somewhere.
Yeah, I don't
know which world.
I didn't know if I was clueless or if you're building things up. Great hype, great promo job. Second guessing my own knowledge.
I feel like you can do that with any hotel, really.
True. Chicago's having a bunch of powerlifting. They just had USAPL Nationals.
Raw Nationals.
Yep, this week, which I caught a little bit of. I guess it's a pretty, if you have to choose two cities that are powerlifting, I mean, the whole Midwest, Texas, obviously. Like, Texas sent, like, out of a state, I think they sent, like, 150 athletes to USAPL Raw Nationals.
Jesus.
Where other people send, like, 10 or 20. I guess, actually, maybe that was collegiate nationals. That makes a little more sense, I think. Beside the point, Texas has a crap ton of powerlifting.
Yeah.
Columbus, Ohio, or Ohio in general.
Yeah.
And then I guess Chicago, That's got to be the top guys, top dogs. I guess USPA and stuff run pretty good in California, you could say, but it's so spread out, it's hard to like. Someone said, I forgot who I was talking to. Man, my memory is going bad. I was talking to old. Man, I was talking to somebody, but and then like a good small group conversation. I don't know if it was in text or what. I think they asked where I was from. I said, "Oh, Sacramento," and someone said, "Like, oh, the powerlifting capital of the world."
No.
Like, well, we do pretty good on YouTube.
Powerlifting capital of YouTube.
Like we did, in terms of like pretty strength and conditioning gyms being in a similar place, we do pretty good. Like obviously Columbus has Westside and Rogue Fitness, but
Lexon.
And Wendler's from there. There's some stuff, but I think you could at least put Sacramento in the conversation of fitness.
Probably so.
We're in the Mount Rushmore of fitness heads, cities.
The Mount Rushmore of powerlifting.
Yeah, Sacramento's got to be there somewhere.
So in there somewhere. Anyway, what we wanted to talk about today was just a couple of weeks ago, the 2-hour mark was broken for the marathon, which is like a crazy accomplishment. I've been reading about it a little bit. It was done under, let's say, certain conditions that were conducive to it. It was a one-man race against the clock. Mm-hmm. It was not populated with a bunch of other runners who were actually running for their own time. There were a bunch of pace people that he was drafting off of. There were lasers that that told them where to run on the, like where to apex on the, on the road.
You guys ever play race car like video games? If you play in like beginner mode, they'll put like a yellow line in front of your car for like the perfect track time.
Yeah, I kind of think that's probably
and then
similar to what they were doing.
Some kind of secret Nike space shoes.
And space shoes, yeah, a crazy thing. So we started kicking around the idea of what would be an equivalent accomplishment in the powerlifting world, something that you wouldn't expect to be broken, that would be broken at some point in our lifetimes.
What was that mile pace time? It was like 4:32 or something
like that.
And another conversation on this was what breaking the 4-minute mile back in the 60s or 70s. Wasn't that a big thing?
Yeah.
The 4-minute mile. And then just for personal reference to let everyone know out there how poorly of a runner I am, On my college basketball team, they wanted point guards, the position I played, to break, I think, a 5:30 mile. Any guard position to break a 6-minute mile. Or no, a 5-minute mile. 6-minute mile, and then any big man had to break like a 6:30 mile. I had a coach pacing me with a bicycle, like perfect condition on everything. I think my best mile ever was like 5:55. Just so bad. That's what happens when you're built like a little fucking.
Are your legs not long?
Legs aren't long.
Yeah, my legs are not long.
I was kind of fast, but not for a mile.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the mental effort to chase that down.
Or maybe it just wasn't in your genes.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
There's a level of monotony that you have to be capable of enduring to run middle or long distance that just is beyond me.
Yeah, if there's no ball around me, I'm not gut chasing anything.
If there's no taco truck.
What's the point?
Ice cream truck, particularly.
I do think it's interesting.
The music is hypnotic.
The topic of powerlifting, because I think there's so many factors in all of this. We're joking but not joking about the Nike shoe, which I did read a couple articles and tweets about people claiming that it's too much of an advantage. It's no longer a shoe, it's a spring and a vehicle, and all these words people are getting all upset about. And the other thing is how passionate people are. Like, who fucking cares? Like, I get you like running, but just relax, all right? Second thing, technology in general, which applies heavily to powerlifting. Common in both, the geared powerlifting and non, because there's even the type of barbell you're using, and monolift and non and wraps. There's a million factors. But then I think the biggest thing that thinking about this in my head, because numbers in powerlifting have gone absolutely nuts, both raw and multiply over the last 2 or 3 decades, right? Records are broken all the time. Is the pool and how new the sport is, right? Like, what's the first sport ever? Run. Like, it had to be run, right? And the largest pool of talent probably is some kind of running or something super basic like that. In America, it's probably basketball or football, but you get what I'm saying, because that's where the money and glory is. But running is so basic. The pool is huge. The mile seems to be something that's or marathon, or the 40, the 800. The basic numbers have been there probably since some kind of Greco-Roman times. I'm sure we have some kind of records. Where powerlifting is a sport, I don't even know when it was truly invented. Strength sports, sure, throwing a rock around, or who can throw a rock, very old.
Odd lifts back in the day.
Yeah, very old. But the sport of powerlifting is maybe even newer than basketball, huh? Especially as
definitely.
Definitely. As a sanctioned sport, it's only been around since 1964.
Yeah. And then the popularity of it and the transformation of it is back and forth through the years, and probably at an all-time high right now in terms of raw powerlifting, maybe overall numbers. I think I was watching, shout out to our boy Russell Orhe, who won the USAPL Nationals 83 kilo. I think there's about 10,000 live viewers watching his flight on YouTube.
That's insanity, because I remember back in...
that's just online.
Yeah.
And I heard there's 2,000 or more in person. I heard it was packed.
Yeah. Back to 2011, when the backyard meet of the century, I remember streaming that one and being just completely blown away that 1,500 people watched it.
Which is still a pretty dang high live stream.
Yeah.
And obviously YouTube views are accelerated everything by millions. People have watched the replays, but that number really stood out to me.
Yeah. And similar to powerlifting, or similar to marathon running, there are all these other factors. Like, with the shoe, it's a gear issue. There are federations like the IPF, USAPL, whatever, that seem to try to keep all this stuff under control. Particularly, I don't like raw lifting. It's sleeves, but like, I'm not sure to what extent sleeves really make a difference, and I don't know if they police how tight they are. I guess maybe there is actually maybe a new rule coming about that.
I just know you
have to be able to get it on yourself.
Yeah, that's all I know.
Yeah.
Which something else just popped in my head about things kind of off topic but not on topic. Sorry, Jim, but I'll forget about it. My memory's gone.
Feel free.
Marathons are interesting to me because they're not interesting to me at all, actually. But this point is interesting. Is that each course is so different.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know what this dude ran on, right? But I know we have a huge one here, an international level marathon here in Sacramento.
California International Marathon.
Yeah, really big. And I know that qualifies you for Boston and all this stuff. And I know Boston's this big old one.
Yeah.
But what if you just find 26 whatever miles straight downhill?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Would be quick.
Or like, and I know there's a TED Talk that's a couple years old now, and they talk about technology in track and field events and a bunch of events, but what you're running on matters. So if the cement or concrete is nicer or
if
not
you're running
nice,
on regular asphalt road
yeah,
bed.
or that clay stuff, and you're running in a circle
Yeah.
in a stadium, you know, with a pace car or something, it might be way different, where even powerlifting with all the variations, at least, you know, the weights are the weights and the plates are the plates, and some of that's a little more standardized even.
Yeah, and I was thinking about the IPF and the whole issue of drugs and drug testing, and then like all their kind of, I want to say, fetishistic rules about athletes interacting with people who had tested positive in the past. And like, I know that there's been, you know, stuff around Ed Cohn because of that, because he, you know, lost records in the precursor to that federation due to drug testing. They're just like, they seem to be very worried about outside influences factoring in and gear and all that stuff. And yet we've seen the lifts go up there, probably because, like you were saying, they're pulling from a bigger talent pool.
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about, you know, this topic is really broad, although we'll narrow it down to an actual number eventually. But, you know, the talent pool in powerlifting in general and the popularity has gone through the roof, yet the prize, which in typical sports is at least popularity, if not a lot of money, is still not really there. You know, there's the one raw meet that was paying an okay amount of money, but even in relation to normal popular sports, it was nothing. And so it's interesting how popular the sport has gotten with literally just, in my opinion, Instagram and YouTube pushing it.
Yeah, basically.
But otherwise, it's not very lucrative.
Well, this is something that I talk to people about all the time, given my background coming from media and in particularly sports media. If you look at competitive powerlifting, so far this year, I have open powerlifting basically up 24/7 on every device that I own. But so far this year, you know, you've had over 60,000 raw competitors. Only a couple years ago, you know, there was 40,000. Only 10 years ago, there was like 12,000. You can't find many other sports, period, in the U.S. especially, where there's that level of participation. And you think about, for every, you know, as close as I follow powerlifting, I've never done a meet. Most of the people that I've trained with have never done a meet. So for every one powerlifter who's done a meet, you know, and there's over 100,000 of them who have done a meet this year, you've probably got a multiple of, you know, maybe five or six people who closely follow the sport yet have never done a meet.
Yeah, and you could maybe even double that if you consider anyone who deadlifts or squats a powerlifter of some nature. You know, like even random soccer moms that don't even know what the word powerlifting means.
Yeah, but then you look at like sports that, you know, turn on ESPN and you're going to find, you know, strongman. By comparison, no one, you know, it's a fraction, a very small fraction of people do strongman. And yet, I mean, I've heard endorsement numbers from some of these companies. You know, guys are making $250,000 to, you know, endorse one company or another, $350,000 to do another, and then they're winning pots of, you know, $50,000 to $200,000. And these are sports that strongman as we know it, though it does kind of come from like the odd lifts. The reality is that strongman was born in a studio in Burbank. They were just looking, you know, it was a TV executive who said, wouldn't it be cool if we got a football player, a power lifter, a bodybuilder, and we just threw these people together, and people began to mimic it. And they brought it back because people watched it. It was an intriguing concept, but it wasn't even invented by people within the strength space. But now we look at it as like it's the staple of you know, sports media. The American Ninja Warrior is much the same way now. But all this is to say, like, there are so many other sports where the pool is very, very small. They get tons of media exposure. I also know that that's not what any of this conversation is supposed to be about.
It doesn't matter.
So
no worries.
So, yeah, but I'll try and bring it back a little. But the slowest part of any pool to expand is the top. Because model athletes tend to find sports which they are suited to well beyond and well faster than, say, the average person does. So even as that pool is expanding and is bigger than it's ever been, to find another Ray Williams, you don't just double the talent pool to find one more person like that who's, sort of at the apex of their kind of part of it. You might have to triple or quadruple it to find one more person. And then to find one more person beyond that, you have to keep expanding it so much further, because just sort of with any sport, genetic sampling, it's I live down in Florida where there's the Monteverde Academy in Central Florida, in a tiny little town of like 12,000 people, but they're a hot spot for 7-footers from Africa to come over when they're, 15 years old and learn how to play basketball. 7-footers in, sub-Saharan Africa, they find a way to basketball even when it's not the popular thing where they are. And powerlifting is much the same way. If you're throwing 500 pounds around in an ordinary gym, someone's eventually gonna, very early say, you should try powerlifting, or have you ever thought of it?
Yeah, it's kind of give and take. I don't know, another good old white guy saying to fit this what I'm trying to say, but like powerlifting, you know what they say, like hardly working or working hard. All right, but powerlifting, because the talent pool and being discovered and exposure to the sport at a certain age. The interesting thing with powerlifting opposed to other sports is that you could potentially, and many people have that are at the highest level, haven't started till they're 30, 40, been exposed to the sport and still become one of the best, where that just doesn't happen even if you're a 7-footer. If you're past the age 17, maybe even 16, and you're a 7-footer, you got no chance. No one cares. You're just a tall, goofy guy now that doesn't fit in any car. You're not gonna. Maybe you get a chance to go play overseas somewhere if someone will take a chance on you, but it's pretty unlikely. But like you said, if you're even 30, 40, and even you're just kind of stocky, never worked out, someone might be able to expose you to the sport, and you can probably be pretty good. The other interesting thing about the sport in general, all strength sports really, is no one ever forces you to quit. If you played at a high level at basketball, soccer, football in your life, there's going to be at some point, maybe it's the junior high team, maybe it's the varsity team, collegiate or professional, but at some point, someone else is choosing you to retire. Yeah. And powerlifting, you can go, I don't know what the lowest kilo on a deadlift you're allowed to pull, but really, it's 100 kilos or something or less. Obviously, it's probably like 60 kilos, I guess would probably be the number. And if you can pull 60 kilos, you could probably compete.
Yeah, depending upon, the age category you end up with and all that stuff. I think that, what was I going to say? Gear. Back to gear for a second. I think that both kinds of gear. I think that there was a time that we did not think that anyone was ever going to squat 1,000 pounds raw. And it's been quite a while since somebody squatted. I was the first person to squat 1,000 pounds in single ply gear, and then multiply. Obviously, back when I got into this, we talked about 1,003 single ply, being a big deal for a regular lifter, and the records there, stood for a really long time in single ply. 1,000-pound squats in multiply, pretty common now.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, what's the lowest body weight that someone's going to squat 1,000 pounds, both raw and in gear?
Yeah, I don't know.
In gear, it's going to be 181.
I know Sam Bird was in the conversation for the longest time as the biggest squatter at the lightest weight, but I haven't paid attention to gear for a while.
I don't know if he was at a 98 or an 81 when he did that.
Yeah, I don't know either. But yeah, I agree. I mean, the 1,000-pound, when I got into lifting in 2000, like dug in 2010, started paying attention to everything. 1,000-pound multiply squat puts you in the league. It wasn't unheard of, but it wasn't nothing to scoff at. Like that puts you in the league of big boys.
Yeah, and a lot of time you needed to make up that the weights on your squat because you might not deadlift
because you're too fat to deadlift.
You're too fat to deadlift.
Yeah. That was like the number, and then raw, really started to gain some steam, whatever it might be, 2012, 13, 14, 15, and 1,000 wasn't really in the conversation. The 800-pound wrapped squat, I felt like kind of put you in the the oh shit club, the pay attention to club. But now, even though wraps arguably aren't as popular as sleeves at this exact moment, 1,000-pound squat in wraps I think kind of is still now the oh shit club. Yeah, there's not a ton of people that have done it, but there's a okay amount. And you can say, we can go through similar numbers with squat or with bench and deadlift. Maybe a 600-pound bench. Maybe, who knows? There's some freaks out there. Everyone's pulling 800. It seems like now it's hard to freaking say. But
have there been any 1,000-pound totally raw pulls?
I don't think so in a full meet.
I don't think so in a full meet either.
But not to say that there's some people that may not be capable of it. But I don't believe there's been a full meet raw 1,000-pound pull. Because even Thor hopped in a powerlifting meet last summer, didn't he? And pulled like 9 something.
But that wouldn't be tested.
Oh, definitely not tested.
That wouldn't be tested.
No, definitely not tested. Definitely not tested. Yes, it's wild. It really is wild. And me and Jim were talking, I forgot if we were recording or not, but we were talking. The issue is there were some Michael Jordan-esque genetic freaks that happened in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But there's no standardized powerlifting, right? We have so many different rules and so many different categories and whatever. And so you can say like, oh man, Ed Cohn fucking crushed 900 for reps on the squat and his suit wasn't doing anything. And we can say that.
And he pulled 9 something wrong.
Yeah, and that's all probably very, very true. And I love Ed Cohn and I do think he's the greatest of all time. But you still can't say he did that raw. You still can't say he did that the exact same as now.
Well, I don't think anyone can say that they've done anything raw since 1973.
You mean? Yeah, true.
I mean, just since the traditional, definition of equipped powerlifting.
Yeah.
The idea of equipment was defined in powerlifting in the 60s. And it included wraps, wrist wraps, belts. There were no knee sleeves.
Yeah.
Gear wouldn't come around for, nearly 15 years before the first marathon singlet, which nowadays would qualify as, a raw singlet.
Yeah.
Like that's not even a joke. It literally would.
Not as strong as a virus singlet.
Yeah. If they had the money for the IPF, then it would pass as a raw singlet.
Yeah, exactly.
But so when you look at it that way, like in the spirit of what those words were supposed to mean, everything from 1973 forward, everything of consequence has been equipped. It's just to what degree.
Yeah, which is the generational conversation you can have in other sports where people talk about Wilt Chamberlain being the best basketball player of all time. He scored 100 points and he's just so freaking dominant. But his competition, the rules, even the square foot of the basketball court were different. I think even the diameter of the basketball might have been different, and then are you going to compare him to Shaq? Because I would love to see him go head to head with Shaq. Shaq's going to dominate him, but we just can't make those comparisons, sadly, which kind of sucks. And in powerlifting, because it's so new, we can't. And where can we draw that line? It sounds like you're saying maybe in the 70s, maybe from then on, it's a little more standard. But even still, it's so hard because there's barbell advancements, there's rap advancements.
I like to go even further to look at, like back in the 60s, one of the first big names in powerlifting was Pat Casey. And Pat Casey was the first man to squat 800. And you think about that, there's right now, like 1,000 is such a high standard raw. This guy was doing 800 raw, and he was the only person on earth who could do 800 raw. They thought that was the 4-minute mile of the sport. And now, like, that, that won't get you invited to a lot of big meets.
No.
That you're not even going to be Insta famous for an 800. You're chasing 9 or you're chasing 1,000.
Speaking of Insta famous, I'd like to declare it now that I'm probably the weakest Insta famous person on the planet, and I'll take that. I'll take most talentless Instagram famous person as well, if we want to just declare that right now.
Looking at the Powerlifting Watch list here, it says Benedict Magnuson pulled 1,015, but I know that wasn't in a mainstream federation.
I think it was unsanctioned.
Yeah.
I think he's in some basketball shorts. He's wearing some and one shorts. That doesn't count, Benny. Sorry, bud.
Yeah.
And there wasn't full power.
Yeah, it wasn't full power.
No, it was a single lift exhibition.
Yeah. Which I have a difficult time slotting that in, but that's the same thing with this marathon record. Like, it's not actually being recognized as a real international record because of the conditions under which it was achieved. So
I
we're
think
back
it's
to
important
that.
to note I think it's really important to note with the marathon record, because I've seen a ton of articles about this and stuff, because I follow track a little bit too. But people act like he has stolen a record in some of this coverage.
Yeah.
He's the guy who holds the record.
Right. He stole it from himself.
And he stole it from himself. I believe it was on an actual marathon track. It just wasn't during an actual marathon.
Yeah.
But it was on a track that he had run before. I believe he set the world record a year earlier on the same track in an actual marathon, and the difference in times was less than 2 minutes.
Yeah, they want to act like he's Barry Bonds or Mark McGuire.
Yeah, different.
Yeah, this is the equivalent of someone like, hitting a really big squat with like reverse mini bands.
Yeah,
like, he's special shoes, all this stuff. Like, he's tried to do this before in between setting world records. So like, he tried to line up the perfect situation. It didn't happen. And then he just broke the record again in a real race. And now it's set by such a slim margin relatively. This would be like setting the mile record by, 1 or 2 seconds.
I don't know that much about track and field, but it seems like this exact thing is why they have like an Olympic record and a world record, because then it's like breaking the land speed record. Yeah, you're going out to the salt flats and you're just freaking throwing a rocket on some Goodyear tires.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's way different. This guy trying to do that. Impressive, not impressive. I guess that's for all of you to have your own opinion, whether you're excited about it or not. Who really cares?
Yeah.
But for people, I agree with you. To like really argue it. And that's kind of the same with powerlifting. And sometimes I'm just like there's a front squat. People are stoked on a front squat record, or even Lasha hitting the latest clean and jerk. They say is like the heaviest clean and jerk they've seen on camera. Some of this stuff's just kind of cool to see what the human body can do, whether it's in competition or not. Who really, really cares at the end of the day? And I get some of you guys are, you listeners out there are fanatics for a certain federation or lifter or rule book or whatever zealot life you want to live. But for me, it's the same as like a dunk contest in basketball or something. Some of it's just a display for something and something for people to chase down.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like when you said, like Wilt versus Shaq. Like Shaq had the benefit of seeing everything that happened because Wilt happened.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the same as when I brought up, that's what I meant when I brought up Pat Casey, was like, that was the strongest human. If you put him in, a modern world where he had better nutritional information, maybe easier access to better training partners, better equipment to train on. Like if he could be a benefactor of all that came after him, maybe he would be out here, squatting the numbers that Vlad is squatting.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good
You
point.
know, and I'm sure in a few years someone will come, we want to talk about like a marathon record. Marathons have been around for, you know, they're named after a distance that was run 1,500 years ago, or no, longer than
that,
2,500.
Yeah,
like 2,500 years ago
in the BC territory.
Yeah, we're in. We're looking at a sport that has existed for
60 years.
Not even like 55 years.
Yeah.
So, the first kind of 20 years of anything are just getting the kinks out and figuring out, what should we make a bar out of?
It is interesting to see like the top and the middle of where powerlifting is now. Mm-hmm. Compared to even where it was 10 years ago. The closest, newest reference is the USAPL Nationals, where, Russell Orhe, I don't know exactly what he squatted, but I know he has in the past squatted like 710 or 720 pounds as a 181er basically in sleeves. And there's people that are in the top 10 in his category that are maybe squatting 500 pounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where like that doesn't happen in other sports either. And that's maybe because of the pool, maybe because of how new the sport is. But, even LeBron James versus the arguably whoever the worst player is in the NBA, that guy can score. That guy can score on LeBron James. It's not just going to be absolutely. And shout out to that poor kid, whoever did squat 500 pounds. You're not embarrassing, little buddy. You're doing great. But, that doesn't, a 500-pound squat doesn't bat an eye at a 700-pound squat in the same weight class, same rules.
Yeah. I think even if you look at LeBron, like the value of LeBron on any team in a one-on-one contest, it might look like they're kind of close.
Yeah.
But once you put them into the actual sport, like there's in every sport, it's this way. Again, like when I worked for the NFL, it was this way where like there's only ever a handful of people who are absolutely great. It's a ton of people who are like pretty damn good, but there's only like a handful of freaks no matter what the discipline is.
Yeah,
that was the end of my sentence.
I was, I guess, to get us back on track, I was trying to think of one because there's so many freaking categories. I don't even know them anymore, and all these stupid records in powerlifting and weightlifting and strongman and who knows what. But I was trying to think of come up with a number in my head that was the 2-hour marathon, and I didn't really come up with one.
Well, a whole other thing that we haven't really talked about is accomplishments by women in powerlifting. Yeah. I didn't think that we would see
600-pound raw squat. I think drug tested at least. Raw was first done only like 2 years ago.
Yeah, and that women would do that. I didn't think that lightweight women would ever squat over 5 raw.
Yeah, now they all
plenty
are.
of dudes don't.
Yeah, well now there's tons of chicks crushing 500-pound squats, sleeved, wrapped, doesn't matter weight
class.
Drug
tested.
Yeah. Oh my God! There's these two girls. Shout out to I think it's Daniela or maybe Danielle Mello and Amanda. These girls are like under 25 years old, and they literally outlift me like 2 weight classes down from me and ladies.
Yeah,
in every lift basically. I think I outbench them barely. Insane.
Yeah, and so I think it's very difficult to figure out what one single thing this is. I mean, it might be. We haven't talked about coefficient at all either,
because weight classes obviously throw a huge wrench into this.
Yeah,
because our weight classes you can almost break down as like different events if we were comparing it to track and field. The thing that was popping in my head, if I had to, was probably being as basic as I can. So sleeves. Who cares about drug tests or not? I don't even really care anymore because I think the highest sleeved squat ever is technically drug tested at this point.
Yeah.
So we'll just throw all that out the window. But sleeves, wraps, belt, I don't care what barbell you use. If you can do probably 1,000, 6, 1,000, I think it's doable. But I think
that's definitely doable.
That's the sad point. That's why I was trying to think of numbers without sounding stupid, because you could just say like 2,800 and 2,000, like who knows? Because I think there's insane things that probably will happen in the next 20 years. But let's say the next 5 years, that's like something I would probably will happen, but I would be like, oh shit, kind of numbers.
Yeah,
it's definitely doable. I mean, if Kirill or some of these people want to really, get focused in and chase these things down.
And probably the hardest part of it's going to be the deadlift.
Probably, or just put them together in a day in a meet. And again, it's USAPL Nationals or Worlds. You're doing all 3 lifts, all 3 attempts, probably within like 3 or 4 hours.
Less than that.
Yeah,
probably.
Where you
Depending.
go to an all day meet where some of these things are getting thrown around. You're squatting at 10 in the morning and you're pulling at 8 at night.
8 hours later.
Yeah, which is obviously an advantage. 2-hour weigh-ins. There's a bunch of different factors in this thing, which obviously make it difficult. But even in the same day, you go 1,000, 6,000. Definitely doable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think. I mean, there's not a number. I can't throw a number out there that I don't even think's doable, just because the sport is so new in advancements.
I think too that it is difficult to define what a real record is because of conditions and all of the different factors that we've talked about. It's difficult to definitively say something is a world record, and so many federations have international wings that have world records, and they're not obviously definitive in any way. So it's difficult to pin this down. But to wrap things up, we were talking about the WPO coming back and being on ESPN. Tell me about what Hoff you think might do there, because those numbers are crazy in the most extreme gear. And he's the guy who's done the most ever. And then tell people how to actually find this meet.
Well, the meet's going to be on ESPN3. So you can get ESPN3 if you live in the U.S. and you have ESPN in your cable package. If you can turn on a TV and find any ESPN network on it, then you can also access the ESPN app on your phone, your smart TV, mobile device. You can log on to it at work. It's on a Monday. It starts at 1 p.m. Go to lunch, come home, tell your boss you're busy, turn your volume down. We will have great commentators and announcers. We'll have Donnie Thompson on the mic, Matt Martucci from ESPN. But mute it, watch it online. Depending on who your cable provider is, you might have to put in like your cable provider email and password or whatnot. And I'm sure if you live elsewhere that there's someone industrious on Reddit who will have already done a workaround.
Probably so.
Yeah, I can't advertise for you to do that, but I can't stop anyone from having already done that for you. And you just stumbling upon it. But so Monday, October 28th at 1 p.m. If you miss it, it's cool. You can still, your friends might be talking about it, but you can still go back and watch a replay on ESPN3 on the ESPN app for like a year. You can keep watching it. I know that a lot of you all are obsessive. What was the other thing that you wanted me to talk about here? Oh, yeah. What might Hoff do?
Yeah.
Hoff, I think, is going to do something really big. He has currently the highest all-time coefficient. The WPO uses a multiply coefficient called a Glossbrenner. That's kind of like multiply's version of the Wilks. Hoff already has the highest of all time in that. Multiply, especially on the men's side, is one of the rare instances where the biggest total and the highest coefficient are the same person. So that'll be a neat thing. You might see records in both, but right now his best all time is 3,014.9. Hence his Instagram name at Mr. 3K14. But I think that we might see something crazy in comparison to that. The kind of jump that you see in the numbers from that we saw from like Usain Bolt in track, where just all of a sudden the 100-meter time went down 0.3 of a second in a year from the same guy. I think there's a realistic shot at skipping through the rest of the 3,000s altogether and going straight to the 3,100s. Which again is
insane.
Yeah. But again, Hoff has He has the 3 biggest totals in history. He has 12 of the top 15. He has 14 of the top 25. He's a generational talent in that, in that arena, and you'll get to see kind of how close the next people are. Then on the other side, because you can't forget the women, we've got Krystal Tate, who was the first woman to squat 700 raw. She has, I believe, 16 all-time world records. Jeez. Almost all of those. I think like 14 of those are raw. She has either the second or third highest raw total for a woman, but now she also has the second highest geared total, and she'll be going after Becca Swanson, who is the only woman to have ever totaled 2,000, and she totaled 2,050, I want to say.
Sounds about right.
But we might see both the men's and women's all-time total records, the largest in the larger sport of powerlifting. We might see both of those fall, and we might see a meet where not only do someone come out and do a huge total, but also a meet where the winners on both sides, because I don't believe there's been a large raw meet where this has happened, or even a large single ply, where the winner on both sides, the men's and women's, by both coefficient and total, were the same 2 people.
Mm. Wow.
I like stats. I don't know if y'all can tell.
Well, thanks for joining us for this conversation. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Westside Film. And as always, go watch my movie. It's on Netflix.
There you go.
And if you don't have Netflix, well, then go buy it, because I would like to own a house one day. Westside vs. the World, Netflix, Amazon, iTunes, and Vimeo if you are international.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Michael.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
You can find me, Silent Mike, 2Ks, Instagram, Twitter. Be sure to give us a rating and review, iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff really helps. Appreciate you guys.
I am at the Jim McD on all the social medias, and you can find the show on Instagram and Twitter. 50% facts, where percent is a word. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks, Michael.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. If you got to link information or whatever on the meet, send it to me and I'll put it in the show notes. This is going to go up tomorrow night. So.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I got the link right here.
All righty.
All right, man.
Later.